Riverside.
Welcome to Dance Talk with Joanne Carey, where the dance world connects, the conversations inspire, and where we are keeping them real. I'm your host, Joanne Carey, and today I'm joined with Diana Byer. Diana is the founding director, artistic director of the York Theater Ballet. She also has a vast background in dance, a legacy that she is leaving to the dance world. She is a master teacher. The list just goes on and on. So many things that we're going to be able to get into and talk about. I'm delighted to have her here on my podcast and share all her knowledge and wisdom with you in the dance world. So Diana, thank you for joining me today and welcome to Dance.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you, Diana. So I always like to begin with having my guests just give a little bit of a background about themselves, how they started in dance, what drew them to dance, just so that listeners can have an idea of how you got to where you are today.
Well, my story's a bit odd. I was a very chubby child, and the pediatrician told my mother that if I didn't exercise, I'd be an obese adult. So she took me to dancing, and from that first class, I never wanted to do anything else. So it's kind of was just in my blood, and so I've been dancing forever.
I love that. I hear so many people, many dancers, myself included, that it's just something. I think it's that first class. There's something about it. I still don't know what that it is, that when you're in, you're in. Do you feel that same way?
I do. And when I hear music, I just want to move.
Yeah.
I still, and pretty much any kind of music makes me want to get up and move.
It's so wonderful to hear that, because I myself, when especially when I'm having these conversations on my podcast, I really love to dive into, what draws my artists that I have and my guests on to the dance world, what keeps them in the dance world, and what they feel their the calling, so to speak, of a dancer or a dance artist is. Can you speak about that a little bit?
I don't know if I ever had a real calling to do it. It's just something that I've always done since I was a child, and I love dancing. I love to watch it. I love to do it. And I've done it my whole life. I went to Juilliard when I was 17. I studied with Tudor and Krask and Ellen McGee and all the Alfredo Corvino, these wonderful masters. And then I met Margaret Krask, and for me, I had kind of seen the light, and I loved that way of working in ballet. And so I started a company.
Yeah, let's talk about that too. So, not everybody has that desire to start a company. What made you want to start your own company?
Well, I had come back from Le Grand Ballet Canadien, and some of the boys in my class came back from dancing in Europe, and they wanted to choreograph. They wanted to use the same dancers from Margaret Krask's classes. And I thought, since they had never produced anything, that was not so smart, that we should each do one piece, each choreographer do one piece, and then combine it instead of each doing a whole program on their own.
That was smart. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I kind of put that together, and we started to get some bookings, and I told them, okay, I'll do it for 3 months. I want to dance. And the 3 months turned into 45 years.
That's amazing. Congratulations. I mean, that's huge. And what an imprint you've made in the dance world, and the dance community, not only here in New York, in the United States, but globally. And do you ever have those moments where we go along every day and we live with ourselves, so we don't really know, like, oh, I did this, yay me, right? But when you down and look at it, do you ever have those, like, wow, that happened, that's me who did that? And what is that legacy like, to leave that imprint on the dance world?
Well, I guess every now and then, it's not very often. I think sometimes when I'm in the theater and especially when we're on tour and I see 2,000 people in their seats, and I say, oh, wow, I put that together. And it lasts for a minute because then you're on to your next problem.
Hmm.
Thing when you run a small dance organization or small arts organization. And what I, you know, what I would love to do, and I still have not accomplished it, is to get this Cechetti training and style of movement well known and popular again, that it doesn't have to be so athletic.
Okay.
Still have some say it's important and use of the eyes, and it's not just feet and legs, I guess, more in
Yeah.
the style of Tudor and Ash.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about that because, let's bring the listeners up to date because I do have some listeners who, aren't in the dance world. They listen because they're learning about dance and that's what they love about the podcast as well. Can you talk about for the dancers what the Cechetti method is and what distinguishes it from other methods? We have Vaganova. I could go through the list.
Yeah.
So just give a little explanation and a summary for the listeners to know what is specific to Cechetti method.
It's a syllabus the way the Paris Opera has a syllabus, the way the Bolshoi has a syllabus, the Vaganova syllabus. And it's just a syllabus, and it's very, very respectful of the human body. Nothing's exaggerated. Things are pure. The training is for the eyes, the gesture, the technique. The technique is kind of the beginning. The musicality, the style, everything kind of at the same rate. But it's a real syllabus. Originally, it was, the Monday day, the Tuesday, the Wednesday. There were certain exercises you did according to the day. Margaret Chris didn't do that, so I don't really know.
Mm-hmm. How do
Every now and then she'd do the Friday step or Monday step, but
mm-hmm.
I think for me that my idea for teaching was that she really looked to who she had in class and what was needed that day. And
Which is important. That's very
yeah,
important as a teacher. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you're aware of this, but I did my ABT NTC training, so I'm certified in pre-primary through level 3. And when I did that, I had a dance studio for 23 years, and I did that training. I'm trying to think now what year it was, in 2015. And when I did that, I loved the training. Like I loved having something codified and also to know that I was doing something right, that it validated what I was doing and what I was teaching the kids and that I was on the right track and I wasn't just, doing things haphazardly because it sounds like you teach in the same way that I like to teach, who's in front of you and you look at their needs and you teach to that while you're teaching the ballet class, but you really have to reach who's standing in front of you in order for them to progress properly. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, yeah.
I always teach with an assistant, as Margaret did. If a child is having trouble with a step or, their hips are off or something, they go to the assistant for one-on-one so that I can
Nice.
the pace of the class.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, keep the mirrors covered.
Nice.
Grass did. And mirrors are only uncovered if it will benefit someone to look at it rather than feel it, as they're having trouble feeling it.
So to really feel it, that's so important to feel what your body's doing so that a dancer can come to understand how the body is working and how their body works.
Yeah.
Which is really wonderful about that. So can you also talk about storytelling in ballet? I love that you used the word pure a little while ago because I've had this conversation with several people and there seems to be people in the dance world right now, in the ballet world, who want to they're hungry for the pureness of ballet and the pure beauty of ballet. Can you talk about that and what your thoughts are on that a little bit?
Well, for me, it's dancing. Ballet is still dancing. I mean, the Cechetti syllabus, it's, you really bend forward and touch the floor, and you bend back, and it's very much free in the upper body. It's not kind of just legs going up and down. It's training the whole thing, the head movement, like the épaulement, and the head is slightly inclined towards the foot in front on a glissade. There's rules about all. It's like a system of balance in the body. So, to me, that kind of training is important. That I don't know if I'm really answering your question.
Sure, you are. Yes.
It's so much more than training feet and legs.
Yeah.
And in the children's class, Miss Krask and I do it as well. The children do corrective spine exercises in a circle, and I sit in the middle. Then after that, they do a folk step. They'll do a Viennese waltz, a hornpipe, a country waltz, polonaise, a mazurka, something. Then they go to the bar. So it is about dancing.
I like that.
Yeah. And so, yes, it's pure. It's not pure in that everybody's standing up like a board and doing tendu, of course, the foot back, all that. Yes, there's technique, but technique is only the beginning.
Yes.
Is that purity? I don't know, because I think people think purity is getting a tighter over CrossFit position.
Oh, okay.
That's purity.
Yeah. No, and when I hear purity, I think possibly because of the conversations I've had, is I think it's just getting back to what ballet is, and what dance is, because I think some people feel that it's moved so far from that. And I think about it myself, because there's things, obviously we all like things and don't like things. We see dance that we love, we see dance that we don't love. But I think the purity of movement, the purity of intention, I love the fact that you say did I understand that correctly? You start in the middle with the spine exercises first, which I think that's brilliant. That
for the
for the
children.
children. And the reasoning behind that. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, it's preparing them for the bar work. Kind of finding their spine, shoulders over the hips, stretching the hips, stretching the knees. They're nice little exercises that Margaret Krask said she used to do as a child in her and they put the spine in alignment and stretch.
And I like, what I like about that too is that I think, especially with children, they want to dance. They think that they're going to come in the classroom and they're going to do, they're going to dance right away. And when I say dance, I mean they're going to do all these things they see an advanced ballet student doing. And I think when you start like that, it gives them that sense of dancing. And I think that's so beautiful. And then they go to the bar. I think that.
Yeah.
That's,
well, it has to be age appropriate. And age appropriate, if you're 8 to 12, just folk dances, little, few variation, not Esmeralda.
Yes.
How to use their body and how to be generous to the audience and express different emotions through movement.
Yes.
So that it's not just getting a bigger instep.
Yes, I like that. No, I think that's what I love about ballet. That's what I love about dance too, is what it offers children and students and adults and the audience. I also want to talk about, when you started your outreach program. I'm calling it the outreach program, but when I'm going to read a quote for I'd like to read a quote because I just love this about you and all this work that you've done and how recognized you've been in doing this. So the quote says, it's from your bio, I believe. It says, Ms. Byer received extensive media attention for her ongoing work with homeless and at-risk children, winning special citations from President George Bush, First Lady Hillary Clinton, the National Endowment for the Arts, and the President's Committee on the Arts and the Humanities. The LIFT Community Service Program, which provides dance classes, performance opportunities, scholarships, and services for homeless and at-risk children in New York, was initiated at NYTB through her vision and commitment. First of all, congratulations on all that, because that is just amazing. And I just am drawn to people when they do those types of things for the community. Can you talk about that? What made you want to do that? And just talk about that, because I just love that.
That if you're in the arts, you have to do something social, because if you're a writer, someone reads your work. If you're a painter, someone looks at the painting. If you're a dancer, someone watches the dance. You give it away.
Mhm.
always give your art away. So I always felt you should do something. Everyone should do something social. And Schuyler Chapin was the commissioner of the Department of Cultural Affairs at the time, and he had this great of busing children from shelters to different art stations during the winter break. For that, in the winter break, and we were one of the organizations. So that's how it started. Um, I saw a slight flaw in the program because after the week, you give the children something wonderful, and then that's it because they're living in a shelter. So I
Mhm.
just kept it going for children that I thought had some talent, but had the interest and the courage to kind of take it on. And then these children were integrated right into the regular classes.
Yeah, which I think that's amazing. I love those types of programs because like you said, I love how you worded it, that you're giving it away, that you want to give your art away. That's such a beautiful way of saying it. I've never heard anybody say it like that before. So that touches me. I think that really that really touches me. But I just think dance offers so much and it changes people's lives all the
Well, all the
time.
art too. I
Yeah, all the arts.
art.
You're absolutely right. I'm saying dance because
I
we're
mean,
on it.
the dance encompasses other arts, and it's the only
Mhm.
art that does encompass other arts, where
Yes.
you have, music,
Mhm,
literature, design.
mhm,
There's no
mhm.
arts that affect dancing.
Yeah, yeah. Can you talk about the program now? What's going on with the program now? Because it's continuing. It's
Well,
still living.
I'm still running it.
Oh, you run the
Yeah,
program as well. So
well, that I've retired, but I haven't.
okay, well that's
Only
wonderful. Good.
director of the company, that I'm still, running the school.
School.
I'm still working.
That's great.
Yeah, the company is with Stephen Melendez, who
Yes.
came from the Lift program.
Yes, yes. I had interviewed him last year. I interviewed
Oh,
Stephen last year. Yeah, I think it was just like after his appointment or something like that, or whenever that was. But yeah. Can you tell everybody how the Lift program works? I know you say
yeah.
you're going into the show, but give us a little more detail about what goes on with that.
Since COVID, it's been a little more difficult. Um, but we audition the children. I interview the moms. And if I feel they have some physical talent, but they have to have the courage to come into the class and do the work. And I they have to remember their leotard. I will get everything, but we do it in a way that the child doesn't know that it's coming from us.
Okay, that's nice.
Do it. That's not a good thing.
Yeah.
But everybody is kept to the same standards in the
Mhm,
class. You have your uniform, you do not come late. Time
mhm,
is something difficult.
mhm.
They can't come late. I expect them to meet my expectations, and they have to keep up in school like a B average.
Good. Yep.
But, you get your freedom out of the discipline, out of the
Yes,
discipline.
you
Uh,
do.
so everyone has to meet my expectations in the class. The child that's extremely wealthy, living on Fifth Avenue, and the child that's come from Seneca House Shelter.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's so important. I used to when I was teaching at my studio, I would say the same, I wanted no differentiating between anybody in class, and I think that's what's so important about a uniform as well. I don't know if you feel that way, but I felt dress code was so important. Number one, because of the discipline, but that it leveled the playing field, because some people couldn't afford a fancy leotard, some people could, so it was the same. Everybody had to do the same.
Also for my eye, because
Absolutely.
I can't see how the back is with 16 straps on a leotard
Yes.
with them.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
dressed me, uh,
Yes.
so that I can help them, that I can
Yeah.
see their spine,
Yeah.
and it gives everybody on a level playing field.
Yeah. And then do the students have a performance? Or is it part of the school performance?
We work with the Little Orchestra Society, and the children get to choreograph, and we work with the orchestra, which I love. They do children's roles with New York Theater Ballet always, and we do a thing called Dance on a Shoestring, We do 4 performances a year where the children are in charge. They learn how to run a light board. They learn how to put a program together. I guide it.
That's fun. Yeah.
They kind of go into a leadership role.
Mhm.
They do their own choreography. They'll set the choreography, the older children on the younger children. And I'm guiding, if they go
Sure. Hmm.
that direction. They usually work with the music director that was with the company when I was director, Michael Scales, who has in the past guided them to find appropriate music. Because
Hmm.
sometimes they can do it on their own. Sometimes they need a little help.
Hmm.
And they put on these shows in the studio, but with lighting, costumes,
Oh, that's
and it's their responsibility.
yeah. And how long do the students stay in the
Well, one hopes through high school
Mhm.
or they get a job, like
Sure.
to go to New York City Ballet.
Hmm.
One of our students, Charlotte Anna, just got into the professional division at PNB.
Wow. That's
She,
wonderful.
yeah, if they want to be in a smaller company, they stay. Some, the children I've trained since they were young stayed. Some want to go into bigger companies.
And then how does it work with so say if their situation changes in the shelter, can they so that they get out of the shelter? Hopefully their
Well,
situation
they
in the shelter.
go into public housing, and
Okay. Good.
they still come unless they're
Good.
so far away.
Yeah, yeah.
It,
That's great. I love it.
no, it's continuous,
Hmm.
and we supply computers if they don't have computers. We do a lot.
Hmm. Yes. And you're at St. Mark's Place,
Yes,
correct? Yes.
yeah.
I had performed there years ago when I was dancing way back. We had performed in that space. We
And
did a concert.
that's on the first floor. Yeah.
Yep, yep.
We're,
Is it still a performance space?
yep. Dance space is still
And is that where you do your performances, or do you do your performances somewhere
well.
else?
We always hope to perform there, but it's not always available to
Oh, I
us.
see. Okay, okay. Yeah,
We have performed there.
yeah. It's a beautiful space. It's a real beautiful space.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I like Tudor's Dark Elegies.
Hmm.
So gorgeous there.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it was just astoundingly beautiful.
yeah. Now, what you mentioned COVID earlier, what did you do with the classes and whatnot during COVID? Did you go online, or how did all that work?
Well, we were only out, I think, maybe a month or so. I got IQ air purifiers. I got 4 of them into the studio, and each one is good for 900 feet. And
That's
our
great.
900 feet. So
That's
I 4 of them going, door open, windows open.
perfect.
And we did 7 children in class, the rest on Zoom, and then we rotated.
Yes, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing? I always think of how, when I look back at that, how we were able to just, we had to think. But that's what I think is so great about dancers or people in the art. We can change and figure things out. I think we're great problem solvers.
All through COVID.
Yeah.
We set up this studio for 12 audience members with screens, everything open, the air purifiers going, dancers are masked, audience masked. And we did 4, did we do 4 or 5? 4 performances a week for 12 weeks. We gave
Wow.
choreographers work, and the dancers stayed on salary. Not
See,
all of them, someone
congratulations. That's huge.
going. Yeah, we
Yeah.
kept going, and it was always full.
That's wonderful.
But it was always full. And then we did a wonderful program at Arts Brookfield. One of the stores had gone out, and they made a small stage, state-of-the-art sound and lighting, and it was only one family could be there at a time. And maybe it was 8 performances a day.
Wow.
Of 20 minutes. It might have been 12 performances a day. It was a lot. They were
Wow.
tough.
Yeah.
And one time it was just one person had reserved. One time it was 3. One time it was 6. But it had to
Wow.
be family.
Yeah.
Came and we performed.
That's
There.
amazing. That's wonderful.
Going. And then
Yeah.
Brookfield also, we did a Nutcracker that they filmed masked in their big atrium where the store and on their marble floor.
Oh, wow.
But they filmed it, and I think it went out to tens of thousands of people watched it.
That's so wonderful. I mean,
I think I didn't want to sit and complain and say, we can't. Nobody got COVID, knock on wood.
Thank goodness.
Did it. We just found a way to keep going.
I love hearing that. That's really, congratulations. That's really wonderful.
About you have to have imagination.
Yes.
To figure it out, because the dancers had to keep dancing. Some in their prime, they had to keep dancing.
Yeah.
So, I found a way.
Yeah.
Without any fuss, you just sort of
just do it. You just do it. Yeah. That's great. That's exciting. That's inspiring to hear. I also have in my notes that you are I might mispronounce it, repetitive. I'm going to say it. Yes. And so how can you talk, are you still doing that? Do you do that on occasion? How does that work? Whoops. I just lost it. That's okay. That's okay. Whoops.
Okay. I have it in this little holder.
No, that's okay.
Well, I'm a repetiteur for the Tudor ballets, the smaller ones. But, things have changed within that foundation. And unfortunately, a lot of people aren't doing Tudor. And I feel that really has to change. Trying to think of ways. It's very important that choreography is seen by today's audience and not old-fashioned. It's about the human condition that it should be seen. And plus, he was one of the great geniuses, and I don't use the word genius lightly.
Yeah.
And I think choreographers could learn from him, of his work, of how it touched your soul, how you walked out of the theater not admiring someone's foot and legs. You walked out of the theater feeling and thinking.
Yeah, that's our job.
I do the smaller ballets. But my company has done Lilac Garden. I staged Lilac Garden years ago with Kevin McKenzie years ago. And we do Dark Elegies, but we have 8 Tudor ballets when I was director. And then I do the Agnes de Mille Broadway dances and Fall River Legend debut with the opera, and I do it with Elena Zalman. It's an dancer with the company for many years, and she's just fabulous at staging work, and we do it together.
That's wonderful.
2 companies. We staged Tudor's Fandango for Brooklyn Ballet, I guess a year ago.
That's exciting. You're
Art School. We're staging Fandango at the Hart School in January.
Okay. Wow. So you really are. I mean, you're like around the clock busy, which is great.
Yeah. And I'm looking for work too. I did 3 things at Bruno Walter for the library, 2 on Agnes de Mille. On Agnes de Mille, Anthony Tudor and Frederick Ashton, when they were together in the piece, studying with Margaret Krask at Rambert.
Wow.
And I Jane Pritchard, who is the dance director at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London.
Wow.
And I brought her in for one of the talks. And so, I love doing that. And I just curated a family program for Tanglewood. It was a joint thing with Jacob's Pillow and Tanglewood. It was kind of, but
That's
it was
fun.
It was wonderful for families.
And that is, and it's such a wealth of knowledge and history that gets overlooked, and it's wonderful to have it out there, and important. It's so important, like you're saying, to keep that alive, to keep that
real, to really, if it's for a family audience, to make it wonderful for the adults too. Not talk down to the children and make it, kiddie like. It's important for the future audience. They should be getting the best shows.
Yes.
Your audience. So I think it's very important.
And
dance history, because I feel that you can't break the rules if you don't know the rules that need to be broken. So I think it's important as well.
Yeah. And you have something coming up in a couple weeks at Jacob's Pillow, is that correct?
Yeah, really exciting.
Yeah, talk about that.
Well, Dancio with the Caitlin trainer, they did teach 16 classes. And I had already done 2 for her with children, but this was a mix of the professional level and the children. And we did classes at Jacob's Pillow. They filmed with Nell Shelby. And then Caitlin got COVID and we didn't do the classes, so we did those at Mark Morris's studio in New York. And I think there's 16 altogether.
Okay.
Classes. And so because Jacob's Pillow was a part of it, Norton is going to moderate a conversation with me about these classes. They're calling it the Diana Byer Legacy, which I find a little much. Because for me, I wanted to, I thought Margaret Krask was one of the great masters, and her way of teaching is so important to keep alive for every generation.
Yeah.
I'm not her. I did the best I could, but I'm her. And I hope it will help a little to keep working.
And so the classes, did I understand it correctly that they're recorded classes and they're available online? Is it teacher training, or is it, talk a little bit about
it can be for teachers, for anyone to do a class at home.
Oh, wonderful.
Follow along. It's, live music. It's a whole series, so you can do the classes at home. And it can be teachers training, it can be research, and you go through Dancio. And you can do the whole series, or you can just pick one, or do the children's classes, or the advanced, or there's intermediate level classes. I'm sorry, go ahead. No, I just think it's important to keep her work alive.
Yeah.
Because it's a legacy from Cechetti to Krask to me. It's a direct line.
Yeah.
Once it gets further and further away from the source, it loses the essence. They have these films. And there are also films at the Performing Arts Library of a month of Krask teaching children and professionals.
Wow.
It was 1973.
Wow. I mean, that's amazing. That's exciting. Now I feel like I want to go take those.
In classes, because it's a different way of teaching. Now the bar is choreographed. Or for this is a 20 to 30 minute bar, usually around 25 minutes, and it's simple. It's to prepare the body for the center.
Yes.
To prepare you for the day instead of choreographic exercise for the instructor.
Yeah.
And it's simple to get you on your leg, to get hear the music. She said very little to get a lot.
That's wonderful.
She snapped or clapped and very rarely talked while the music was playing, so that you were working on your musicality as well.
Yeah. And you said that in the classes you recorded that there's a live music as well. You did it with live, and that's such a gift too.
Mark never taught without live music. Every now and then they were late or something, and she would.
Right.
And I always teach with live music again.
I was just going to ask you that.
Problem.
Yeah.
Including the 4-year-olds.
That's great. With the 4-year-olds, they must love that.
But it's not kiddie music. It's it's
real classical movement.
Learned what a march is, what a tangent, what a poem is.
Yeah.
It's important. You don't have to keep talking and snapping and clapping, just to be teaching the art form.
Yes. I was interviewing a dancer. I can't think of her name. I think it was she danced with Miami City Ballet several months ago, and she was talking about she grew up with classical music. I think her mom, if I remember correctly, her mom might have been a violinist, or but she herself played the cello. As a 4-year-old, she started, and she attributes to her mom's and dad's exposure. They exposed her to classical music at such a young age, and she loved it. And it reminds me of what you're saying. And she said that was her foundation, and she loves that. And she talked about how at such a young age, like if you expose it and you teach it, like you're saying that you're teaching the art form, then they appreciate it and they know it and they recognize it.
It's, we try to get musicians, not just accompanists.
That's nice.
Yes, so they're very good musicians.
Yeah. And then how about when you do the performances? Is the performance live music? What happens when you do your performances?
Well, for New York Theater Ballet, when they do rep, it's usually live. When they do big ballets like Cinderella, that we can't.
Right. Of course, yeah.
Dance on a Shoestring. Sometimes it's a mix. It all depends, but it's been recorded.
Yeah.
And it's recorded for the end of the year performance. But when we do Little Orchestra Society, it's live. Yeah, we do live as much as humanly
Possible. Sure, I know, because it's tough.
Small organization. We're a very small school. We have one studio. So I think in the funding world, when you don't have the numbers, it's difficult. So I'm very good with making $1 turn into a lot. And when you're an arts organization, you have to do that.
Yeah. And let's
I think people get that small can be excellent.
Yes, small but quality. I was going to say earlier, small but quality. Talk about funding for a minute, because a lot of people don't understand, or I think the understanding is happening more because, funding is so important for the arts organizations, and it's different in our country than it is in other countries. We're starting to, although it's always a struggle. It's always a struggle. So can you talk about that a little bit, how important funding is, the funding campaigns, when we reach out for funding? It's not just because for the sake of it. It's not just for whatever. It's because we actually really need those dollars to keep the organization going. Can you talk about that a little bit and what you do for your fundraising efforts?
Well, I think harder and harder because there's fewer deep pockets. Everybody is going to those deep pockets, and there's fewer. I think corporate funding is way down. Government funding, it's up and down. The future is individual funding, but I think, the way I look at it, the big companies are always going to survive. But the little companies, the smaller companies, they're the texture of the arts world. People forget that. They only want to do the names that are in the press.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult. And I tried when I was running the company, and now with this school, that's my job. I mean, I go to the ballet. Who's ever sitting next to me, I try to meet them. I try to tell them my story. I try to meet new people. I take people to dinner. I take them to lunch. I'm on it.
Yeah, which is great.
It's very, very difficult.
Yeah. Because
everybody's struggling, and the major companies have to survive. So what happens to this, the small organizations that really give texture to the art world, especially in New York? Well, and some, it's also luck of the draw. You get someone who's good at media, because it's media driven. Yeah. And, it's not always quality driven, media driven. So, you have to have the product, and then I think it's luck as well. Yeah. And, it's interesting when you talk about, all you do and to get your funding, whether you're taking out to dinner or to lunch, talking to the person next to you. I just came off of a project. I was away for 7 weeks in Indiana working on a new ballet. And I was amazed and not amazed, but I was thrust into this world, and to see how hard people were working at that. Exactly what you're saying is the constant being on, or the constant networking, or the constant. And I was like, I would go home at night thinking, wow, just to myself, like, wow, that constant need, and how important that is to do that, to get the exposure, to get the funding, to get the backing, to be known, to be heard. You have to pay your dancers. You have to do costuming. You have to pay royalties. You have to, if you want live music, you have to pay the musicians. Yes. Yeah. Are very expensive. Everything. It was eye-opening to me to hear different conversations I was hearing as well, too, from dancers who they were so happy how they were being treated, because in their own individual companies, they would tell these stories that it made me sad to hear how just they weren't being treated well, or seen, or, or just being talked to in a certain way. And I would just listen. I mean, that's been going on forever. I know. Feel they're not treated well. I don't know. I do the best, and I think dancers don't see the whole. They the whole organization. They see their box.
Yeah.
That it's very important that dancers see the whole
The
situation.
whole situation.
Or
Yeah.
complaining about how bad they're being treated.
Yeah. It was interesting.
But I think also they don't understand
Mhm.
what goes, all the little things that have to be done. And also, if they don't talk to a director doesn't know what the problem is, so they can't fix the problem if they don't
Yeah.
know what the problem is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's wise. I think that's really important. Same thing, even with my own school, when I would hear, I'd be like, but there's a bigger picture I had to take care of. There was you had all the little elements, like you're saying, and everything. It's the whole that
Yeah.
has to, with any organization, I think too, but it was just interesting. It was interesting to peel back that curtain, so to speak, and hear these conversations and see just that hustle going on, for lack of a better word, that was happening. I always like to ask my guests about beauty. How would you define beauty? How would you define beauty in art? And how would you define beauty in dance? And do you feel it's important to dance?
Well, it depends what beauty is. I mean, I don't think of beauty. I think of generosity. I think of your job to make the audience feel something that you are trying to get across.
Yeah.
Is that beautiful? Yes, if the audience walks out of the theater having grown a little bit,
Mhm.
in their spirit, in their soul. Yeah, I guess that's beauty.
I like that you say generosity, generous. I think that puts a real clarity to it. I think that's to hear you say that lets me think of it differently as well, being generous as an artist.
I don't think it's about me. I don't think it's about the dancers. It's what you're giving to your audience. They paid for the ticket.
Yeah.
Give them something that's more than, oh boy, she had pretty feet and how many turns did she do?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's an art form. It's not athletics.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, Dad.
No, that's
What do you think, or when you look at the vast array of work that you've done, are there certain pieces that you've done that you think you really hit that generosity spot, or that you could have been more generous with, or you yourself as an artist?
well, I think it depends on the repertoire you're doing. We had Richard Alston, who's one of the great choreographers of his generation. Tudor, DeMille, Ashton. For younger choreographers, Pam Tanowitz kind of started out with. I think that we hit it. She did a terrific piece, and I had great advisors that helped me get to that place. David Vaughn, Margaret Krask, Anthony Tudor. How lucky was I to have Sally Wilson, Sarah Stackhouse. They all were kind of they were with me the whole time.
Yeah.
They still are with me, even though they're not here. I think of Sally, I think of Sarah Stackhouse, David Krask all the time. When I would be planning programs or coaching and teaching, we were kind of all doing it together, even though they passed on.
Yeah.
So,
You have such an interesting background and such an interesting, career. You really, really do. And I know you say that the legacy, that word, but you really, like you pointed out, you're almost like third generation, of the Cechetti, of that line.
yeah,
which is really, that is a legacy, and to leave to the dance world and to give that to the dance world is very generous. And it's a gift. It really is a gift. And I know myself, I love dance so much, I really, really do. And I feel like I champion dancers. I want to see people succeed because I do love it. And I think it's so important for us because, as you say and point out, so eloquently, we're giving the audience something, and nothing's more beautiful than when you're sitting in the audience and you are moved. You're moved by what you're seeing. It's making you feel something. It's making you think something. My niece, I often take to the ballet with me, and she works in the city. She works in New York, so I meet her in there. And she kind of teases me. She's like, tells me I cry at everything, but I get moved. And I feel like it's a successful evening when I'm moved. And I don't mean I have to cry. I just mean I'm so touched profoundly by what I'm seeing in front of me that,
You're walking out of the theater different than
yeah,
walked in.
yeah, yeah. And
That can be bad, but at least it's different.
yeah, it's powerful. It's very powerful. And I think that's what's so beautiful about art, is that it really does speak to our soul. There's no way around that because it really does.
We have to get back on track somehow
Yeah,
in the dance world where people are choreographing and not just arranging steps and wonderful patterns is something completely different.
talk about that. Can you? Yeah, talk about that.
Away from it, not everything,
Sure.
things. So, but I think that it's so much making patterns, and that's not choreography. Choreography is something else. You're coming up with a different way to say something within vocabulary, within dance vocabulary. Where's the vocabulary? I don't see steps. I don't see phrases of movement. I see great patterns and an interesting idea, maybe. Not that I'm generalizing.
Of course, I know. I'm understanding.
But I think that I don't know. I want to be moved, and I want it to not just be in the choreographer's head. If they understand it, I want to understand without a lengthy description.
Yeah, yeah.
And I want to see vocabulary, like real vocabulary. But the teachers have to teach it. When was the last time you saw a glissade volet?
Yeah.
When I do temps de cuisse going back in an audition, the dancers that are auditioning look at me as though
yeah.
they haven't had it. It's not their fault. So I think within the teaching, instead of Miss Crass said, there's no meaning of having somebody run around the stage and then kick their head. It's the same with teaching. It's quality, quantity, and all this stuff and also it's not about you. It's about work. It's about the work. So putting a camera on the floor and filming yourself all day long, I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
Something else.
Yeah. And that, I had an acting teacher once who would talk about that and talk about how, those things were for the rehearsal space, figure that stuff out. But the end product, what you're putting out on stage, you have to leave yourself, you become, you give over to what it is you're working on stage and let it work through you and come through you. Like you're that vessel. And and that always stuck with me, that you didn't want to go out there and make it be about you on stage, and even in your job. I think that permeates other areas of our life, when you're working on a project, or it can't be about you. You have to serve what it is you were hired to do, in my opinion. Yeah, not always easy, but we strive for that. Yeah. Is there anything that I haven't touched on or that you would love to talk about? I know we spoke about August 10th very briefly, but do you want to talk about that a little bit more?
And I don't know. I think it's streamed. I'd have to.
Oh, that would be great if it's streamed.
I'm pretty sure it is, but I'm not 100% sure.
I know, because now we can stream everything.
Norton Owen is the best.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to have the conversation with him and to get these dance theater films out there in the world.
Yeah.
Want people, even if they just do one class, to get them out in the world. One thing we didn't touch on is the Clive Barnes Awards.
Oh, yes. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. I'm hopefully going to be the senior advisor. I think not everybody has confirmed it. That I think
congratulations.
Important awards. People can really get behind it. Clive was a great writer. He cared about dancers and theater actors. And these are awards for young artists on the cusp of greatness, being recognized when they're on the cusp of greatness and giving extra little something.
Yeah.
And I think it's such an important award. And it's for dance and theater.
Mm-hmm.
Clive's name, and he shouldn't be forgotten because he was one of the critics.
Yeah. Which I think that I was supposed to go to. That was in the winter, right? It was in February or March, I think they were.
Yeah,
This past,
yeah,
I was supposed to go. I gotten sick, and that would have been the first time I would have gone.
yeah. It was great. And Mira Nadan, who had been the winner the year
Yeah.
before, danced.
Oh,
So
okay.
that was wonderful.
Yeah.
Other people danced as well. Yeah, I think they're wonderful awards,
Yeah.
and they need a lot more notice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm hard to get them.
great. And I bet you will, because you are a doer.
Yeah,
Yes, that's great. That's what you need. That's what people need to get things done. Well, it's Diane. It's been
so much. It was fun.
absolutely. You're welcome back anytime. I can't wait to see what else you're doing. I'll have to pop in down there and say hello. I said that to Stephen last year. Hmm?
Come watch a class sometime.
Oh, I'd love to. I would love that. I will. I definitely do that. And Hmm?
Just let me know.
I will. That'd be great. Yeah, I would love that. But thank you so much for joining me on Dance Talk.
Invite me. I really appreciate it.
Yes, wonderful. Well, thank you everybody for listening. This is Joanne Carey with Dance Talk with Joanne Carey. Follow us, like us, and share. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Powered by Riverside.